The day I became the most hated man in Lakeside Estates was the day I also became its most powerful. $500. That's what Karen Wellington and her HOA slapped me with, for fishing with my grieving daughter. What they didn't know was I had 4 million reasons to fight back, and enough grit to use every single one. If you're watching this from your phone, hiding in the bathroom to avoid those soul-sucking HOA meetings, drop a comment below telling me where you're hiding. Trust me, this story will grab you and won't let go. I'm Remy Thornfra. Until 2 months ago, I was living what most called the American dream. 15 years in venture capital and tech investments had left me comfortably retired at 42. But life reminded me money isn't everything when my wife Rachel lost her battle with cancer last year, leaving me alone with our 14-year-old daughter, Solon. Grief nearly tore us apart. The only balm was fishing, the last thing we ever did together before Rachel's health faded. So, when I sought a fresh start, I wanted a home by water, somewhere quiet and healing. Lakeside Estates looked perfect on paper. Upscale houses, good schools, and a stunning 6-acre lake at its heart. The realtor mentioned an HOA, but assured me it was standard stuff. Lawn care, paint colors, nothing intrusive. I should have caught the hesitation when she said, Karen Wellington, the HOA president, is very dedicated to maintaining property values. I shrugged it off. I dealt with tough personalities in business. How bad could a neighborhood bureaucrat be? I found out on a quiet April morning. Solon and I were fishing off the community dock, her first genuine smile in weeks as she caught a bluegill. Then a sharp voice shattered the peace. "Excuse me, what exactly do you think you're doing?" Karen Wellington approached, late 50s, flawless in designer athleisure, hair styled perfectly in that unmistakable, "I want to speak to the manager" cut. She carried a tablet and looked like she'd just caught criminals vandalizing the park. "Good morning," I said, keeping it friendly. "Just fishing with my daughter. I'm Remy Thornfra. We moved here 2 months ago." She ignored my handshake, tapping furiously on her tablet. "Fishing is explicitly banned in our community lake. Direct violation of HOA rules. I'm Karen. Wellington, HOA president. You'll be fined $500. Solon froze beside me. "Must be a mistake," I said. "The realtor said fishing was a community perk." Karen's cold smile didn't reach her eyes. "Rules changed last month. All residents were emailed. Ignorance isn't an excuse." She showed me the amendment, dated just 4 weeks prior. "We never got that," I said. "I personally oversee all communications. Check your spam folder. Not my fault if you don't read official emails." I held back anger. Why ban fishing? The lake's clearly stocked. Karen waved dismissively at our modest gear. "Environmental and safety concerns. Hooks hurt wildlife. Complaints about fish smells disturbing residents enjoying their patios." Her tone was heavy with condescension. "Not everyone wants to see this while sipping morning coffee." I realized this wasn't about rules. We practice catch and release, clean up after ourselves. Her expression hardened. Lakeside Estates maintain standards. This isn't public fishing. Longtime residents expect a certain atmosphere. She glanced at Solon and me. Newcomers often struggle to adapt to our culture. People used to, shall we say, different neighborhoods. The implication stung. Solon sniffled quietly. This was supposed to be our healing place. "We'll pack up," I said, pulling her close. "Please email me the fine details and full rules." Karen's smile turned triumphant. "Glad we understand. Check your email carefully next time, Mr. Thornfra. No misunderstandings." She strode away, soft sneakers barely touching the manicured grass. Later, Solon asked, "Dad, why was she so mean? We weren't hurting anything." "Some people just love rules more than they love people," I said softly. That evening, after thorough email search, no fishing ban notice, I dug into the HOA. Karen had been president 8 years, owning a boutique real estate firm specializing in luxury communities. Social media showed her hosting wild parties at the same lake she'd just fined us for fishing. Loud music, alcohol flowing, no complaints there. Then I found a buried clause. The lake wasn't owned by the HOA but by Meridian Development, the original developers, who leased usage rights to the HOA for 30 years. That lease expired in less than 2 months. Curious, I spoke to Merrick Henderson, a retired attorney nearby. When I told him about Karen, his smile faded. Ah, the neighborhood dictator. She finds people for nonsense. Most just pay and keep. Quiet. He invited me for coffee and shared HOA horror stories. The lake lease could be renewed, sold to the HOA, or sold to someone else. Meridian's in trouble and might sell quickly. Karen knows this. Together, we uncovered Karen's pattern. Through shell companies tied to her firm, she'd been quietly buying neighborhood properties, often after residents were driven out by fines. She was playing for bigger stakes, negotiating to buy the lake for herself, not the HOA. Plans were underway to restrict lake access and build luxury homes on the shore. The fishing ban, not about the environment. It was about controlling the lake before ownership changed. Merrick introduced me to Samuel Washington, a retired bank owner and one of Karen's few vocal critics. Samuel showed me a decade's worth of HOA records meticulously tracked. This started as a hobby, he said, but it's a history of manipulation and control. But soon, a disturbing pattern emerged in Karen's enforcement tactics. The data didn't lie. Homeowners of color were getting violation notices nearly 3 times more often than their white neighbors. Newcomers faced citations for issues. Longtime residents skirted without consequence. And properties sold under market value after repeated compliance fines often ended up in the hands of shell companies linked to Wellington properties. Her real estate game was cunning, Samuel explained. Pulling up records. Karen never bought homes directly. Instead, she used a web of LLCs, Lakeside Investments, Wellington Holdings, Sierra Vista Properties, all tied back to her but cleverly hidden. He showed me 6 houses purchased this way in the past 5 years, all following the same cycle. Excessive HOA fines, falling property values, desperate sales, and then flipping for profit after cosmetic fixes. Merrick nodded grimly. The lake is her big prize. Meridian Development's been bleeding money since the recession. They're selling off residential land to stay afloat. Originally, that lake wasn't meant to stay a permanent green space. The development plan from 30 years ago called for lakefront condos, but environmental laws at the time blocked construction. Now, those rules have eased. With Karen's pull in City Hall, permits could be greenlit to build luxury homes along the shore, worth millions. My curiosity piqued. "Tell me more about Meridian's finances," I said. As a former venture capitalist, I knew distressed assets when I saw them. Samuel connected me with banking contacts who quietly confirmed Meridian's deep financial hole. Maxed out credit lines, failed commercial projects, and urgent land sales. The lake, valued around $300,000, was one of their last unencumbered assets. Meanwhile, Merrick coordinated discreet meetings with other residents unhappy about Karen's reign. We met in rotating spots, Samuel's house, the library's private room, even a local bakery's back room. Stories poured in. James Morris, a retired teacher. "I got fined for Christmas lights I've had 15 years. They suddenly broke some brightness rule." Maria Gonzalez, a healthcare worker. "My foster kids were kicked out of the pool for being too loud. All on Karen's say-so." Diana Winters, a young widow. "Karen led a backyard mosquito inspection, then fined me for 5 things. My neighbors all do." When I challenged the unfairness, Karen suggested, "Maybe Lakeside isn't the right place for you." The tactic was clear. Isolate opposition, apply HOA pressure, and force compliance or drive people out. Those who stayed learned to keep quiet. Those who resisted faced escalating harassment. Our group grew. Samuel set up a secure messaging channel where neighbors shared stories without fear. I also dug into Karen's finances. Despite her polished image, Wellington Properties was heavily leveraged. Multiple loans on existing homes funded her lifestyle and property acquisitions. If the lake deal failed, she'd be in deep trouble. She's desperate, I told Merrick, and Samuel. This isn't just greed, it's survival. We reached out to Robert Chen, a local real estate broker with insider info. He confirmed Meridian was desperate to sell. Karen had a 60-day exclusive deal, but Meridian might accept a better, quick cash offer. Robert warned Karen's empire was mostly smoke and mirrors. She's 3 bad months away from collapse, he said. That's why she's pushing the lake deal so hard. She needs a win. Armed with this, I crafted a plan. I had the capital for an all-cash offer that would blow Karen out of the water. Timing is everything, Samuel advised. Let her publicly commit, announce the special. Assessment, risk her reputation and creditors, then strike. Merrick agreed. The more Karen spent before we acted, the bigger her fall, and the more the community would turn on her. We kept our strategy secret, appearing as just disgruntled residents while Karen ramped up rule enforcement against anyone in our circle. Robert set up a private meeting with Tom Branson, the Meridian exec in charge of the lake sale. Tom was blunt. We gave Karen 60 days exclusive, but can consider better offers with fast closing. Her $300,000 offer is financed over 18 months. We need cash now, I smiled. $350,000. All cash, closing in 7 days. Tom's eyebrows shot up. That'll get the board's attention. Karen has friends in local government, he warned. Good, I said. I'm counting on it. 2 days later, the deal was nearly done, pending a quick environmental check. To keep things quiet, I created Thornycroft Holdings LLC to buy the lake. Karen wouldn't connect it to me unless she dug deep. But then the harassment began. Violation notices for ridiculous things, weed control, landscaping, mailbox height, even my garage door paint shade. Fines piled up to nearly $2,000 in weeks. Appeals vanished or were denied. Karen was wielding the HOA like a weapon. Sen's bike left unattended for minutes, instant fine with photos. Neighbors faced similar targeting. Maria's lawn too high, James's bird feeder suddenly illegal, Diana's trash bin placement wrong by inches. It was intimidation. But it backfired. More neighbors joined our group. By week 3, we had over 30 households involved. The last straw was when Sen came home crying. Kids say we're troublemakers. Brianna's mom said we don't belong here and want to drop property values. Brianna's mom? One of Karen's closest allies. This was personal now. That night I told Merrick I considered moving. It's hurting Sen too much. Merrick was firm. That's exactly what Karen wants. She's done this to others. Harasses until they sell cheap. Don't give her the win. He was right. Walking away was losing. Worse, it'd teach Sen to back down. That night the environmental assessment cleared. Meridian accepted my offer. The paperwork was ready. Reviewing the HOA rules, I found Karen's special assessment needed 75% approval. Not a simple majority like she claimed. She was bypassing the rules, betting no one would challenge her. That's when I knew. They'd targeted my daughter. Time to show what happens when you rile someone trained to break down systems and rebuild them stronger. The next morning, I withdrew $350,000, 15% over Karen's offer, and called Samuel, who loaned me $50,000 more for leverage. Within 48 hours, the lake, 6 acres plus shoreline, was mine. Not the HOA's, not Karen's. What made this victory particularly sweet was the timing. The day after I closed the deal, Karen called a special HOA meeting to unveil her grand vision for the lake's future. She'd even hired a local architecture firm to draft renderings, showing a massive transformation, including shrinking the water by about 20% to make way for a members-only lakeside lounge. Conveniently, this would wipe out the main fishing spots. I kept this intel tightly under wraps, sharing it only with Merrick and Samuel. Meanwhile, Karen grew bolder, calling an emergency HOA meeting to announce a special assessment. An extra $50 a month from each household, supposedly for lake maintenance, but really to fund her war chest for the purchase. At the meeting, Karen took the stage with a slick PowerPoint titled Elevating Lakeside Estates, a Premier Vision. She spent 20 minutes outlining how her strategic reimagination of the lake would boost property values and community prestige. What she left out was that her own real estate company would handle the development and sales of the new lakefront properties. Then came the thinly veiled attack on me. Without naming me, she railed against new elements in the community who don't grasp its values, financially unstable outsiders trying to drag down property prices. Samuel courageously stood to defend me, only to be publicly humiliated when Karen dredged up a long-settled tax issue from his past. "I find it curious," Karen said with syrupy sweetness, "that Mr. Washington lectures us on community standards, when he himself had to negotiate with the IRS over unpaid taxes just a few years ago. Maybe we should clean our own houses first." It was a cheap shot. Samuel had been audited over a clerical error that was fully resolved, but Karen twisted it to sound like guilt. The meeting got worse when Sapphira Dusklin tentatively suggested a community vote before drastically changing lake rules. Karen fixed her with a deadly glare. "Sapphira, isn't your flower shop lease up for renewal soon? It'd be a shame if there were any complications." The threat was clear, and Sapphira immediately backed down. Watching this display of intimidation, I felt calm. Karen had no idea her plans were already thwarted. The lake she touted as her centerpiece was no longer Meridian's, and would never be hers. The satisfaction nearly made up for the months of harassment. Meanwhile, Karen leaned on her political connections. Mayor James Wilson's office suddenly subjected my home to random safety inspections and questioned permits for renovations done years ago. The mayor didn't dirty his own hands, but his building inspector, Karen's cousin by marriage, became obsessed with the structural integrity of my deck. The pressure was on. When Sen came home crying for the third time in 2 weeks, shunned by classmates over rumors about us, I nearly gave up. But then came the call I'd been waiting for. Meridian's lawyer confirmed Karen had been told the lake. Property sold to an anonymous third-party investor, and negotiations with her were over. Within hours, Karen showed up on my doorstep. Composure cracked. "What did you do?" she demanded. "I know you talked to Meridian. Did you sabotage my deal?" I smiled. "No idea what you mean, Karen, but I heard the lake was sold. Hope the HOA gets along with the new owner." Her eyes narrowed. "This isn't over. The HOA has a binding recreational use agreement. The buyer can't change access without our okay." "You might want to reread that agreement," I said calmly. "It expires in less than 30 days, and renewal is at the owner's sole discretion." Her face paled for a moment. Then she recovered. "The community won't stand for this. We'll sue for access rights." "Good luck," I said, still smiling, and closed the door. The next 24 hours were a masterclass in desperation. Karen called an emergency board meeting closed to the public. Our network learned she was scrambling to identify the new owner and strategize control of the lake. She even got Mayor Wilson to probe zoning laws and eminent domain, all legally baseless given the property's private status, Merrick assured me. That week, Karen grew frantic, convening emergency legal sessions claiming the HOA would fight to keep lake rights. Meanwhile, I quietly met with water quality experts and conservation groups. Their findings were alarming. Years of unchecked landscaping chemicals had fueled algae blooms, stressing the fish population. The HOA had ignored real environmental issues while using environmental concerns as a pretext to restrict activities, like fishing. I also consulted security professionals about installing cameras and proper property management plans. Everything was ready for the moment I'd reveal myself as the new owner. Karen made a bold move, throwing a lavish lakeside party for original homeowners, conspicuously excluding newer residents, to rally support and assert community rights to the lake. The event was set for a sunny Saturday afternoon, complete with catered food, lively music, and wine bars strategically placed at each end of the lake. Karen was ready to unveil her vision for Lakeside Estates, unaware that I had already filed paperwork to terminate the recreational use agreement early, citing the HOA's neglect of water quality standards as grounds for immediate cancellation. The agreement would have expired in less than a month anyway. As Karen's party swelled to around 60 residents enjoying drinks and conversation by the water, I arrived calmly with Merrick, Samuel, my real estate attorney, and a local police officer, who was briefed on the situation. Taking the microphone Karen had been using, I addressed the crowd. "Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day at the lake." Karen rushed over, trying to snatch the microphone. "This is a private HOA event. You weren't invited." I held my ground. "Actually, Karen, I think there's been some confusion about who invites whom." I nodded to my attorney, who handed me a document. "As the legal owner of this lake and the surrounding shoreline, I'm notifying you all that you are trespassing on private property." The crowd fell silent. Karen's face turned beet red. "This is HOA property," she sputtered. "No, Karen, it never was. It belonged to Meridian Development until 3 days ago, when I purchased it outright." Holding up the deed for all to see, I continued. "Effective immediately, I'm terminating the recreational use agreement, which was set to expire in 28 days anyway." I gestured to Officer Reynolds. "I've asked Officer Reynolds here to assist with an orderly departure. You have 15 minutes to collect your belongings and leave." Karen's shock was palpable, as if doused with ice water. "You can't do this. The community has rights," she yelled. "I can, and I have," I replied calmly. "Officer Reynolds is ready to file a trespassing complaint if necessary, but I'm sure it won't come to that. After all, Karen, you've always been such a stickler for rules." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as I added, "For those wondering, this is what happens when someone abuses power unchecked for years. Consider this a lesson in consequences." The party quickly dispersed, many guests shooting pointed looks at Karen as they left. Several approached me privately, whispering admiration. "About time someone stood up to her," one longtime resident said. "This has been a long time coming." Within a week, I'd installed private property, no trespassing signs around the lake and hired 24-hour security patrols. I also held a press conference with the local paper to announce plans to transform the lake into a natural fish conservation area and an educational space where kids could learn about the local ecosystem. "The lake's been neglected environmentally for years," I told reporters. "Tests show high levels of phosphates and nitrates from lawn chemicals. My team of experts will restore this beautiful resource." The community's reaction was mixed but shifted once Karen's plans leaked. Many residents who'd mourned lost lake access grew supportive upon learning Karen intended to build private homes on the shoreline, profiting personally from what had been community property. Public opinion turned sharply against her. Karen was furious. She sued me, claiming I'd destroyed community value. Her case was dismissed immediately after my attorney presented the deed and expired use agreement. She then tried to rally the HOA to punish me. Extra fines, restrictions, even attempting a lien on my property. But more residents began questioning who she truly represented. The tide turned when Sapphira Duskand found her voice at an HOA meeting. "I've been on this board for 3 years," she said, her voice steadying, "and I've seen Karen manipulate rules, target homeowners, and funnel HOA money into projects benefiting her friends. She revealed that last year, $80,000 was spent renovating a park serving just 10 homes owned by Karen's allies, while the main playground used by dozens was neglected. Safira's courage inspired others. At the next meeting, longtime residents shared abuses they'd been too afraid to mention. Frustration poured out. A motion was introduced to audit HOA finances from the past 5 years. Board members began questioning Karen as financial irregularities surfaced. The community was fracturing, not against me, but against Karen's leadership. To show goodwill, I announced a free fishing pass program for all community children, with one exception. Kids of current HOA leaders were ineligible until their parents stepped down. It was petty, yes, but effective. The most satisfying moment came when several former Karen supporters showed up at my door, asking for fishing passes and quietly criticizing her leadership. Social dynamics reversed completely. "My son wants to learn to fish," Veronica Palmer admitted, her discomfort obvious. She'd vocally supported Karen just weeks earlier. "Yes," I confirmed. "It's an educational program focused on ecology and sustainable fishing. Solon is helping organize it. But it's only open to families not currently on the HOA board." Veronica's face mixed frustration and calculation. "I've been reconsidering my position on the board," she said. "Interesting," I replied. "Let me know if that changes. Program starts next Saturday." Within days, Veronica resigned, citing personal reasons. 2 more board members followed. Karen grew desperate, spreading rumors that the lake was polluted and unsafe. I quickly debunked these with published water quality tests proving the lake cleaner than under HOA care. Her most desperate act was trying to bribe Merrick Henderson, offering to erase his violations and give him a board seat if he convinced me to sell the lake back to the HOA. What she didn't know was Merrick recorded the whole conversation. "I can make those violations disappear," Karen promised on tape. "And you'd have a seat on the new board, with a stipend, of course. Just get Thorncraft off to sell the lake." Merrick played the recording for me, grinning. "Looks like Karen forgot one rule of being a villain. Never try to bribe a retired ethics attorney." Karen's final act of desperation came one night when security cameras caught her and 2 board members trespassing, apparently trying to collect water samples, or worse, contaminating the lake to support her pollution claims. The footage showed Karen pouring liquid from a small bottle into the water where children often fished. I sent the video to police. Karen was charged with criminal trespassing and attempted environmental contamination. As investigators dug deeper into HOA finances, more evidence emerged of misused funds, selective rule enforcement, and efforts to drive down property values, before flipping homes through her real estate network. 2 weeks later, I invited all residents except the current HOA leadership to a meeting at my home to discuss the lake's future.